What is up, everybody? Welcome to Mentors Collective. If you've been following me on social media recently, you may have seen that I've started posting a ton of short content. I'm trying to figure it out, but honestly, it's been pretty abysmal. It's tough to get traction on those short form videos. There's just so much competition out there. Hooking somebody's attention, keeping their attention is nearly impossible. So, what did I do? I found an expert in the subject, and he was generous enough to grace us with his time today. He runs a seven-figure media production agency. They help brands and influencers, leaders, and movement builders grow their influence and their business using social video content. He's helped produce over 500 million video views for well-known brands and icons. And I want to introduce Eric Thane. Welcome to the show. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I'm pumped to pick your brain, brother.
What's up, Jay? Thanks for having me on, man.
It's going to be a blast. Content, something I'm very passionate about. I've been watching hundreds of hours of videos, so I'm excited to dive deep into that expert brain of yours and pick out some gold for the audience, hopefully.
We're gonna
And
have
if
fun.
you're watching this on video, Eric's got a pretty dope setup over there. So Eric, I'd love to start off with some of the tools of the trade. I'm sure you've got the best of the best. What are you shooting on? What are you recording on?
Yeah, I would say that I don't have the best of the best, and it's actually kind of goes into my philosophy when it comes to video production is really working with what you need. Although it is really nice stuff, but there's better stuff out there. I've got, sitting behind me back there, that's actually my $25,000 Red Cinema camera that we shot a lot of our commercials on, and
Jesus.
that kind of stuff. And then I started shooting stuff on over here. You can't see it, but it's a $10,000 another Red camera, because that's the world that I come from, is that kind of stuff. So that's the really good stuff. I used to shoot on that, but lately I've been just getting into just Canon DSLR mirrorless cameras. They're just so much easier to use, and like the compact form factor is just, it's meant for stuff like this, and so for creating content is a lot easier. So yeah, I use Canon cameras and their lenses. Lighting is all Aperture is my favorite brand. So Aperture everything, my key light here, this softbox back here. That light on the wall is another Aperture light with a spotlight on it. We've got the little accent light up there. And then there's a little light hitting me on the top of my head here. If you can see that, that's actually right above here, out of frame, another Aperture light. Even that lamp back there actually is an Aperture. They have a lamp fixture bulb called the B7C that you can plug in. You can make it any color you want. And they all connect together with the same app and everything. So I'm a big advocate for Aperture lighting.
Very cool. I've recently learned how important lighting is. And my setup here, I've got my big softbox and this little desk mounted light. I've got the hair light mounted to my, people don't realize when they're watching
Yeah.
high quality content, what goes into the setup and the lighting arrangement and everything, and how well thought out it is. All those lights in your background, the accent lighting, the hair lighting looks great. And people don't even realize it when they go in to create content. Shooting on an expensive camera, and like, why doesn't it look good? There's so many pieces that you have to get right. It's unbelievable.
It's actually really funny. I don't know if you noticed this, but before we went live, you asked me, wow, your setup looks really good. What camera are you shooting on? And
Yeah.
it's actually a joke that we make as filmmakers. It's like the biggest insult, right? It's like, well, what camera is that? I'm like, it's not really the camera, right? It's the lighting, it's the composition, it's the everything else that goes into it, right?
Yeah, and it's funny. I always talked with my friends before I really started diving into this stuff. I had an expensive camera and I just wasn't getting high quality content on that camera. I would use the iPhone instead of my $3,000 camera just because of
Mhm.
the auto tune features. It does a better job with AI to make it look good even in bad conditions.
Right.
So
Yep.
the camera is just a tool. If you don't know how to use it, you're not going to get good quality.
You
Why
can't buy
Canon
a
over
bad
Sony?
camera today. You can't buy a bad camera today. They're all good.
Right.
I've been a Canon guy since the very beginning. My very first camera was a Canon T2i, and then from there the Canon 5D Mark III, and then into the C series cameras, and then eventually got into Red. So for commercial work, for when we're shooting like TV spots and commercials, and like it's Red usually. But for smaller stuff, Canon just, to me, they're just solid. Their stuff is quality. Their color science is the best. I've used Sony's before, but just I never really got into it. This is always Canon for me.
Right. I feel like once you get used to like the user interface on one or the other, then upgrading with Canons
Yeah.
or upgrading on Sony's just makes it simpler. You don't have to get used to new settings and stuff. It can be a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, for sure.
What about your mic? What kind of audio are you recording on?
This is actually a Rode NTG what's it called? Rode NTG Go or Video Mic NTG, I think is what it's called. It's like the USB version of their US or their NTG shotgun mics.
Oh, cool.
So that's what I'm using right now. It's a very convenient microphone because it can plug in simultaneously via USB into my computer and over analog into my camera. So if I want to record something straight into the camera, or if I wanted to record into the computer, I can use the same microphone, which is really nice.
That's one thing I haven't been able to figure out yet, how to get my Shure mic into my camera, record everything kind of audio into the computer. It's got an interesting setup. So maybe it's a Canon workaround. Is it the Canon or do
Well,
you
with
think it's your
yours,
mic?
no, with yours, you'd have to go into a preamp and then from a preamp analog through like a 3.5 millimeter into
Tried
your
it.
camera. They don't all have that. Yeah, it gets complicated for sure.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny. I've had so many experts over here to like help me dial in camera settings and mic settings and try and get it's tough. There's so many pieces that you have to get right. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Uh
Well, we can hop on a call. We could solve that for you.
yeah. All right. So say you're listening to this episode and you have like $1,000 to get started with, and you can't afford the $3,000 camera or the $1,000 mic. You have any recommendations on where to start in terms of equipment if you just want to get a good quality product out there?
Shoot on your phone, man. I just like it's free basically. Like phones aren't free, but everybody has one, so we might as well
Right.
say that they're free because you've got one in your pocket most likely if you're listening to this. So it's really not about the gear, it's not about the technology. I think that a lot of people get too hung up, especially creators, filmmakers get too hung up on the gear and making the videos like look amazing and be incredible. And they really think about like, or they forget to think about the content, right? The content, which is what is the message that you're sharing? What are the ideas that you're sharing? Are the ideas that you're sharing, are they even good? Or are they presented in an interesting way, right? You might have good ideas, but like don't know how to present them in an interesting way. And so there's so much more that goes into like what makes a piece of content good, what builds your brand, what builds authority, what goes viral, what gets engagement. There's a lot of different metrics you can track that will determine the success of a piece of content depending on what the goal is for that piece of content. But what it really mostly comes down to is the actual content, right? The content of the content, if you know what I mean. So it's not so much, hey, I'm making videos every single day. And I'm making the videos. They said to post video every single day, and I'm doing that, and it's not working. But like, are the videos actually good? Is the content of those videos really good? Is it unique? Is it interesting? Is it innovative? Is it original? Is it something that people haven't seen before? Is it something that they want to share with other people? Is it something that it is entertaining and enjoyable to watch? And so for a lot of people, rather than focusing so much on what gear are you using or how are you shooting the videos, which that's fun stuff. I love that stuff. You'll get there. You get to that point. But if you're just starting out and you don't have like a budget to start with or anything like that, like focus on having good ideas and presenting them in an interesting way and actually, being a little bit polarizing and creating good content. Good content doesn't necessarily mean high quality video production, although if you're trying to build a brand and you want to build authority and credibility and you want to look like somebody who has their act together and is serious about this, then those things can add to that brand. But that's a with time thing. As you grow, you can invest more and more into that.
Yeah, I'm so excited to dissect what your idea of a good piece of content is. I think that's where the real gold is. And I agree. So many creators get distracted, I think, with the variable that they can control by throwing money at, which is let's get a better mic, let's get better lighting, let's change the backdrop, change the lens. And if I throw money at it, maybe the quality will get so good where the quality of the content won't matter so much. But it's, proven over and over again, not true. But a lot of people, I think the truth is, aren't good and don't know how to hook attention, don't know how to deliver value in a short, concise, and entertaining way. So they throw money at what they can control. But hopefully, in this episode, we can change that thought pattern to at least have some kind of formula for what is a good piece of content. What pieces do you need to get right in order for a piece of content to go viral, stand out amongst the crowd of content that is TikTok, Instagram, short form content. So
Yeah.
Eric, let's dissect that a little bit. A good piece of
Let's do it.
content. Where does it start?
I mean, there's a lot of things that could go into like what is a good piece of content, but ultimately it needs to be something entertaining, educational, valuable, something that, uh, you know, it, at the end of the day, what defines what a good piece of content is what is the goal of that piece of content. And I think this is where we need to start, because most entrepreneurs, what they do is they judge the how good a piece of content is by how many views it got, right? And typically we do that. We kind of chase view counts because it's the easiest metric to track. It, like on Instagram, it shows on the video, or on TikTok.
Yes.
It's right there. It's easy to scroll through your videos and see like, oh, this one got 100,000 views. This one got 10,000 views. This one was a better piece of content. But that's actually not necessarily true if that wasn't the goal of the video. And so the thing you have to keep in mind with your video content, and this is where a lot of people miss, is that there's basically three types of video content. And if you think of your videos as a funnel, you've got the types of content that are designed to cast a wide net and reach a lot of people. You've got the pieces of content that are designed to nurture your relationship with people. And then you've got pieces of content that are designed to push people into your funnels, right? So it's attract, nurture, convert. It's a funnel, right? And so if you think about it that way, the goal of a piece of content that is designed to get a lot of reach, what is the indicator that you would be looking for? Is views, right? You want to have
Yes.
a lot of views. So if you make something that is designed to reach a lot of people, you should be seeing a lot of views. If it doesn't have a lot of views on it, then it didn't work, right? It's just there's your metric. Okay, it didn't do what you wanted it to do. But that's not the only metric to track. Like I had a friend recently that he posted a video that got literally 200 million views on Instagram. That's
Jesus.
like that's not just a lot. That's like more than anybody gets on a video,
Right.
right?
That's like everyone on
200,
Instagram saw that video. That's crazy.
yeah, like literally 200 million views. 2/3 of the United States saw that video, right? And so 200 million views, and yet did he gain followers from it? No. Did he
Probably a
get a ton
couple.
of engagement? Well, yeah, I mean a few, right? But like a
Yeah.
significant amount? No. Did he gain a ton of engagement or make a bunch of sales from it? No, because the video, even though it had the viral formula, right? It was visually appealing. It still had nothing to do with his brand or
Right.
like what he was doing. And so rather than just going for a viral hit, which is good, it did bring in some followers, right? But rather than going for a viral hit, like content creation is more about how do you build meaningful content over time if you want it to actually do something for you. So yeah, if you're creating a top of funnel piece of content that's designed to get reach, then yes, views. If you're creating content that's designed to nurture your relationship with your followers, build a deep connection with them, which ultimately to me, that is success on social media, is building a deep connection with your audience. That's where real influence comes from, not just viral videos. And so if your goal is to nurture that relationship with your audience, then the indicator that you're gonna be looking at is more engagement, right? So your videos might get less views, but they will get more engagement, and not even just more engagement, but higher quality engagement. That's what's more important. When I started focusing on this type of content, what I noticed is that I actually got less views and maybe less engagement, but I noticed that instead of people just posting a bunch of emojis on my content, I was getting paragraphs of people telling me their life story, sharing their thoughts with me, DMs from people telling me how I've impacted them. That is a different level of engagement and influence and relationship than people just going, "This is awesome." Right? You know what I'm talking about?
Right.
So
It's easy to
that's
catch someone's attention if you throw a bunch of viral clips together. But if I do that on
yeah.
my platform, which is mostly marketing videos, and I throw some cat videos or some other viral craziness that people are spreading, it might go viral, but they're going to come to my account, see that I'm a marketer, bounce right off. They don't care. They're not
They're
going to
gone.
comment. They're not going to engage. It's a
They're
good
gone,
point.
right? Yeah. So that middle funnel content that's designed to build that relationship with people. And then you have the third type, right, which is your conversion content that's meant to push people into your funnels and your offers and your products and your business. That kind of content doesn't get views or engagement, right? Not typically. Now there are ways that you can do it, which we can talk about if you want to get a lot of views and engagement, to kind of combine all three of these, which is a smart strategy. But typically, if it's just a promotional post, like they don't get a lot of views, they don't get a lot of engagement, they don't get a lot of shares. But what you're looking for is clicks, right? How
Right.
many people actually click to the website? And so success on social media, what makes a good piece of content really depends on what the goal is of that content.
Right. And
And
every
so
creator's probably going to be a
so
little different when it comes to their
yeah, yeah, yeah.
goals. For the
Yeah.
purpose of me and my audience, who I imagine mostly are business owners, experts, marketers, and we're trying to deliver value and get a lot of views and get a lot of engagement, establish trust, hopefully get people to follow our accounts for more value. Is there a formula? Is there a good way to deliver that type of content, the talking head stuff that you see Alex Hormozy doing, that's actually going to stand out and convert? Have you seen something that works that you can create an algorithm and repeat that effect?
Yeah, yeah. So I actually have a formula called the 60-second content formula, and
Perfect.
I call it that because I originally started doing it with short form content. But the reality is that this formula works for any piece of content. It could work for a YouTube video. It could work for a blog. It could work for a tweet. Right? It really like it doesn't really matter what the type of content is. If you follow this formula, it's it is the formula for creating interest in an idea, building a case around that idea and building an argument for it to persuade somebody into agreeing with you, and then giving people a call to action to actually go and take action on it. And that's what it does. So yeah, let's dive into this. The way I came up with this was I was actually there was a time when I was posting short form videos like every single day, and when I was just getting started with it and I was just trying to figure it out, and it started taking off, started growing really fast, and within 6 months I went from like nobody engaging with my stuff and not performing very well to eventually growing to over 100,000 followers on Instagram, and then over 200,000 collectively across platforms. And so during that time, this growth happened. And what I did is I went back through all of my past videos to look and see, which ones took off and which ones didn't. And I had some some videos that had, like 100,000 views. And then, most of them would get between like 5 to 10, maybe 20,000 views. And so I took all of those videos that had 100,000 views plus and looked at them to see if there was a trend or a pattern or something. And I noticed that they all followed the same formula. They all followed this 60-second content framework that made them more interesting than the other ones. And the funny thing is, when I found that out, I was like, oh, this is cool. Clearly, I just need to keep doing this.
Right.
But me being like a creative type person, I would still like I would try these different types of videos and try to be creative with them, and they would always flop. Right? They would never get the same result. And I don't know why I deviate from what's working. Right? I must be an entrepreneur or something.
We
Right?
all do that. I do
We all
too.
do that, right?
Right. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And so anyway, I figured out this formula and I started doing this, and then this is what works. So it's really simple. It's basically 4 parts, and yeah, it goes like this. So number 1 is start with a hook. Okay, so your hook is the most important part of the video. That is what determines whether people are going to stop scrolling and actually pay attention to what you're saying. So if you're on social media, people are just scrolling through stuff. They're looking for something to grab their attention, to get them to stop and get them to pay attention. So that's the first most important thing. When we're working with clients, when we're coaching people, when they come to us and say like, hey, my videos aren't getting very many views, the first thing that we look at every time is the hooks. And usually I would say in 3/4 of the cases, probably, if not more, there's a problem with their hooks. And it's because they're not grabbing people's attention. One of
Can
the
you
big
spend a
mistakes
few minutes on creating a good hook? What goes into a good hook? How long a hook needs to be?
Yeah, good. So a hook is basically the first sentence, right? It's the first thing you say, it's the first thing you see, it's what the beginning of the video, right? And typically it's something like, here are the top 3 secrets to this, or here's the way you can get this, or here's a mistake that a lot of people are making, or here's I'm going to say something controversial, but here it is, right? It's just something that gets people to go, ooh, what is this? It creates curiosity. It gets them interested in what you're saying. And so what people do is the mistake that people make is that they start with the story, right? And the story is actually the second part of this formula. They'll start the video out like, hey, I was just hanging out with my friends a couple weeks ago, and we went to this event together, and it was really cool. And there was this one speaker, and they said this thing. Okay. At that point, your viewer has already moved on to the next video, right? You haven't engaged them, you haven't caught their attention, you haven't created that curiosity, and you haven't showed them why what you're about to tell them is relevant to them. And that's the most important thing is there's a magic word that you can use in your hook that has been proven to increase conversions or increase viewership, I guess. And that is the word you, right? Tell the viewer why this is important to them. Here's 3 secrets that you need to know. Here's the 3 things that all entrepreneurs need to do. that way when they see the video, they go, oh, this is for me. I need to pay attention.
Call
Right.
outs. Yes.
Yep. So that's the hook. Okay. So then the second part is the story. The story is where you actually give the background, the context of what is going on, where you got this information from. Like then you can go, hey, I was, hanging out with my friends a couple weeks ago, or you can say I was reading this book and it said this in here, or there's this statistic, or there was a study done, something like that, to give them the why. Okay. Why should you continue listening? If the hook is why should I start listening? The story or the context is now why should I watch this whole video? Right. So here's kind of setting up the value of what you're going to get. Next up is the actual content. The meat of the content is usually 3 tips or 3 secrets. Like here's 3 things that I do to do this. When you can create more actionable, valuable content like that, it typically performs better. People really enjoy that. So then you jump in like here's the 3 things. And those can be really quick, simple tips. Don't go too deep. Don't spend too much time on them. People are looking for, especially with short form video, people are looking for short bites, right? They want quick information. And then at the end, you always want to end your video with some sort of call to action. If you give people a ton of value and then you don't invite them to go do something with that value, the video feels empty. It feels like, what was the point of this? Why did you tell me this information? And so that call to action can be as simple as follow me for more tips like this, or it can be go check out my new YouTube video. It can be DM me this word and I'll send you my free worksheet, or comment a word down below and I'll send you this free thing. Which is a really good way to drive leads and to get engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, it even could be like, so if you want to get X result, make sure you do the thing that I just told you to do in this video, right? So ending it off with some sort of concluding statement or call to action helps kind of wrap up the video and make it feel complete. So that's the 4-step formula. That's the 60-second content framework. And yeah, that's what I follow on pretty much every single video.
I love that. And is it 60 seconds every time? Do you try and aim for a specific time range? Have you found that people are more likely to watch the whole video if it's 15 seconds? Is it pushed farther on some platforms like Instagram that allow you to upload, I think, 3-minute videos now? Or is it always around 60 seconds?
So here's the thing, like on TikTok, a video can be like 10 minutes now, I think, or maybe even 15.
Crazy.
On Instagram, well, Instagram just changed it. Like it was 90 seconds and it still is for a reel. It is 90 seconds, but Instagram's now combined reels and videos. So they actually show up the same way on the feed. So you can actually post longer videos. It just puts a scroll bar at the bottom so people can scroll through it. Right. YouTube is the one thing though. The YouTube shorts have to be under 60 seconds to be a YouTube short. And so, yes, we do try to make all of our videos under 60 seconds because we're cross-posting across platforms. And that way they can go on YouTube. If it does, I tend to be long-winded. So when I do a video that's 90 seconds, it just doesn't go on YouTube because it can't. So yeah, typically under 60 seconds. However, I will say the length of any piece of content, there is no number. There's no finite number that's the goal. The goal is how long can you keep somebody's attention? So if you can keep somebody's attention for an hour, then your video can be an hour long. If you can keep someone's attention for 15 seconds, then it should only be 15 seconds long. The moment your video starts to become boring, repetitive, not engaging, not interesting is when people are going to start falling off. And that's when a video is now too long. But until that happens, there's no too long or too short. It's just how much time do you need to keep the audience engaged and make the point in an interesting
way. How long is your story? How long does it take you to deliver the value that you promised? 100% agree. You mentioned cross-posting. I'd love to spend a little bit of time on each platform, what you're doing differently, what's working, how to post it, and then maybe go into a few editing techniques that you found helpful to help a video that follows your 60-second formula actually go viral and hit that next level. You're cross-posting. Are you doing that all in-app? Are you using the same descriptions and tags and titles? What is your strategy for taking a single piece of content and giving it the best chance on each of the 3 platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and Shorts? If there's another one, please let me know.
Well, there's a million platforms. There's Twitter, there's Threads, and there's LinkedIn and Facebook.
Snapchat.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't use Snapchat, but yeah, there's a lot of platforms and it can be daunting. Let me teach the principle real quick first, and then we'll get into like some of the tactics of how to do this.
Hmm.
The principle is, and I think where people make the most mistakes is in this idea of repurposing. And there's been a lot of systems in the past that were taught where it was create one piece of content and then repurpose it a million different ways across
Right.
every other platform. That is, I think there was a time when that strategy was very effective, and certainly it's appealing to entrepreneurs because it's a very low lift way of creating a lot of content and creating that omnipresence. But anymore, especially as we go more and more into what I call the age of the creator, people are more sensitive to that and more realizing like, oh, this is literally the same piece of content reposted across every platform, and that's not what people are looking for in a content creator that they want to follow, right? And so what the approach that I take is actually what I call native repurposing. And what it means is actually creating content natively on every single platform, because native content, meaning that it was made specifically for this platform, is proven to outperform repurposed content by like 3 times. Okay. Not changing anything else about it, just the fact that it was made for that platform. And so that means like scripting a video for a short form video rather than taking your YouTube video and just cutting it and putting it on shorts, right?
Right.
So my approach to this entire thing is how can I create content natively on every platform and then cross post between them, right? And so that way you create that omnipresence, you create that feeling of you being everywhere and all across all the platforms and everything, but you do it in a little bit more low lift way where it's like not, you don't feel like I have to post every single day on Instagram, I have to post every day on LinkedIn, every day on TikTok, every day on Shorts, right? It's more like it's 1 or 2 posts a week on each of the platforms, and then the rest of them get cross promoted, right? And so the way that we do it is we typically cross post content, and this is the kicker. When we cross post content, in most cases, it's not taking the exact same piece of content and copying and pasting it. There is some adjusting and some editorializing that has to happen between platforms if you want your content to always feel native, right? And so, for example, if I make a post on Facebook and then I want to put that post on Instagram, there are some changes that I will make to it in terms of the photos that I choose or the number of photos that I choose or what photo goes first, how the content is written. I might shorten it up a little bit. I might change some of the languaging around the call to action. Like on Facebook, I'll probably want to put a link in the comments down below. On Instagram, I want to push them to my bio or have them comment something in order to get a DM automation to receive the thing, right? So there's differences. You've got to understand the differences in how the different platforms work and then create content natively on those platforms. Now, there are some platforms where things get pretty much copy and pasted. So for example, between Facebook and LinkedIn, it's almost identical, right? So if I make a post on Facebook and it's a business related and it has some photos, whatever, that's pretty much just getting copy and pasted to LinkedIn. It can be the same thing. They work generally the same way. When I create a short form video, that short form video goes on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts with the same description and the same caption, same hashtags. Okay, so there's no changes there, except that the YouTube Shorts one has to be under 60 seconds. You have to keep that in mind as well. So those ones, those are the ones that are generally the same. But then, for example, if I write tweets, which are just like, on a daily basis, just my ideas that come out, just sharing ideas. When one of those tweets does really well, I might take that and go, I want to turn this into a quote card for Instagram. And so if that gets cross posted over there, well, it's not just going to get like copied and pasted over. It actually goes to a graphic designer, and the graphic designer designs it out nice and chooses what style of quote card we're going to do depending on how long it is, and then post it there. If it's a really long tweet, like a tweet thread, that's getting turned into a carousel, right? And so now we have to design out multiple slides and how that works. So it is, when I start talking about this stuff, I run the risk of like scaring people away from creating content because they're like, how am I going to do all of this? That's so much. But the reality is you don't have to start with this, right? You don't have to be on every platform right from the get-go. Even if you look at the biggest creators in the world, the biggest influencers in the world, they all are big on one platform more than any other one, right? And so like find the platform that you love. For me, I love Instagram. I was like a day one user of Instagram, been using it forever. And I've always loved that platform. Find that platform that you love and just focus on that at first. And then this is a process that gets better and better over time. And over time, you start to figure out like, oh, this piece of content could also go over here. And I can start moving things around in order to create more content. And then, yeah, ultimately it just grows over time.
Yeah, I think one of the amazing things that we have the opportunity for is that there are, I feel like, equal amounts of people now that consume short form content on Instagram, on TikTok, and maybe there's not an equal amount on YouTube Shorts, but it definitely has traffic. It has a decent amount of traffic. And if you're just getting started and you're getting started with short form only, then you have the ability to post on all three platforms with very minimal additional work. And that's similar to what I do with my short form content. And I feel like the benefit of that is my girlfriend only scrolls on TikTok. That's the only way she consumes content. I'm almost never scrolling on TikTok. For me, it's either YouTube Shorts or Instagram. So by putting it out on all those platforms, a little bit extra work, but you get to reach a much wider audience. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Okay, very
it's
cool.
a whole system for there's different people that like different types of content. So if you want to reach the most people, ultimately that's the goal. And I'm actually writing a newsletter about this with breaking down my entire process of how I do it with like doodles and everything. I was just working on it before we got on. And so I mean, by the time this podcast goes live, that'll be already live. But yeah, if you want to check out my newsletter, like I'm actually going to break this down for people this
Yeah.
week.
Is that ericthane.com or is that a separate URL? Whatever it is, send it
Yeah,
to me.
Eric
We'll
Thane.
throw it in the description.
Yeah, ericthane.com, right at the top of the header there. There's a where you can subscribe. And I send my best tips on how to create content, how to build your personal brand, and how to grow your business online every single week.
I'll be sure to subscribe as a
Yeah,
user
check it
and
out.
content creator myself. So I encourage everyone to do that as well. Eric, let's go with some final tips and thoughts, specifically regarding editing and software and tools that you're using on a day-to-day basis. Are there
Okay.
any tricks or stuff that you see right now that's working for editing? I know at some point everyone started copying Hormozy and doing those subtitles and graphics, and then he actually started to pivot. And now, kind of, I don't know what to do. I feel like our editors don't know what to do. It's hard to get that attention on the edit. Anything that you're
Mhm.
doing that's working that you might recommend people try?
Yeah. So, well, first things first, and let's just make a caveat, like disclaimer here. This goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this call. Is
Yes.
that like what matters is good content? Okay. It's not about the editing. Can the editing help catch people's attention? Can it help like keep people's engagement? Yes. But ultimately, if your content's not performing, like the first thing that I would look at is it good content, right? Does it have good hooks? Does it follow the formula before looking at the editing? Now, as far as editing goes, you're right. There's been kind of like waves where initially like short form video was all people like dancing on TikTok and like pointing and words would pop up and like trending audio. Like that was like the first phase of short form video. And then from there, we got into like we'll call it the Hormozy phase, right? I think that in a lot of ways he popularized the captions and the talking head videos. We got into that phase. What I feel like has happened nowadays is and especially so last year and going into the beginning of this year, it was all reels and captions. Like just pump out as many of those as you possibly can. That was working very well. Anymore, it's not, the algorithms have readjusted and balanced out, which I think is a really healthy thing for social media in general. Because now it's like not just who can produce the most content, but who's actually producing the best content ends up winning. And so especially with Instagram, we're seeing a move back to more image posts and carousels and graphical posts and quote cards and that kind of thing. And so my content strategy nowadays is not just video, but it's also quote cards and carousels and photos and really building a personal brand. Like sometimes I'll share just pictures of my family or stuff like that, right? To nurture that relationship with my audience. And so it's not so much about that. Now, when it comes to the videos, the editing style, I would just say that the bar is being raised, right? It's just getting higher and higher. You're noticing the content creators that are taking off right now, like some of their edits are actually amazing.
Yeah,
And
they
what
are.
they're doing is they're working with professional editors. It's the reason why we started our agency was like, hey, this is a skill that we have that we know how to do. How can we actually produce high quality videos? Like we produce like the lighting and everything, make them look nice, and then the strategy and the scripting and innovative ideas, and then the editing that goes into it to make it really nice. And there's just a higher standard, a higher bar right now for top content creators. Now, does that mean that you can't get away with creating content by plugging it into captions.ai or CapCut and throwing on automated captions? No, absolutely not. Like, again, if it's good content, it's good content. It doesn't really matter what the editing is. But good content with good editing is going to outperform good content with bad editing. And bad content with bad editing is just not going to perform at all. Right.
Yes.
And so that's kind of how you think about it. I think that the editing really is kind of like the cherry on top. It really helps your really good content to see the light of day, to get out to more people, to keep them engaged, to catch their attention. But at the end of the day, if the content is not good to begin with, people aren't going to watch it. They're not going to watch it all the way through. They're not going to share it with people. They're not going to engage. It's not going to perform regardless of how good your editing is.
Fair enough. And for those content creators that don't have a giant budget to hire an agency to do all of their high quality edits, are there any tools or workarounds? You just mentioned a couple, but any tools we can point them to do those auto captions, maybe even graphics? I know with AI, there's a lot of cool stuff happening too. So what are you seeing in the software realm?
Yeah. I would shoot on your phone. I would shoot with cinematic mode if you have an iPhone, or there's probably something similar on Android phones that blurs out the background, makes it look professional. You can do that easily. Editing, just take the video, throw it into, if you can do the video in one take and you don't need to actually edit it down, then you can throw it into like captions.ai, which is a really good app that automatically puts captions on it. And then they have a bunch of predetermined styles that you can add to it. I guarantee you, when you go in there, you'll be like, oh, these are the styles that everybody that I follow are using, right?
Yeah.
And so they look good and they're fine, and it's just going to automatically create those captions, and you don't have a lot of room for editing it or doing custom things with it like we do in our agency. But if you're just trying to get content out there, that's the easiest way to do it. If you want a little bit more control over the edit to actually do more, but you still want to do it in a simple way on your phone, CapCut is probably your best option for phone editing. So you can edit videos right there on your phone. And then from there, you just get into, like, we use Premiere Pro, right? And it's a very custom workflow. Premiere also now has auto captions. It also has text-based editing. So you can go through and you can just like select sentences and delete them. So it is making it a lot easier for people and democratizing it. But ultimately, Premiere gives you the workflow to add in custom graphics and animations and style the captions the way you want and use custom fonts and all of that stuff that we do. So that's why we use Premiere for that. Another tool that we use that is really helpful is Adobe Podcast, their enhancer.
Oh, it's so cool.
For the audio, right?
So cool.
Yeah. So make the video look good with cinematic mode, get them edited so that they look good. And then to make them sound good, you can take like almost any audio and it's amazing. And it's an AI
you don't
tool.
even need a mic. You shoot on your iPhone, upload it to Adobe Podcast, and it sounds like you came out of a studio. Sounds like us right now.
Yeah, it sounds great. So plug it into that, and then get that to enhance your audio to make it sound like a podcast, and it sounds really good. We take our professional audio, like I'm recording on a professional microphone now, and I still take this and put it in there just to clean it up that tiny little bit, because it's actually faster and more efficient than like getting an audio engineer to go through and like add compression and EQ and all that stuff to make it sound nice.
That's great value add at the end. I forgot about that tool. I experimented with it when it first came out and I was mind blown.
And it's gotten even better.
Oh man, AI is a scary thing, especially when it comes to content. I see some people doing the AI avatar videos, and those are doing quite well. Creating AI avatar versions of themselves, feeding it a script, they've cloned their voice. And usually those videos are talking about AI, so it's not a really fair comparison. But have you used any of these emerging AI tools? And what are your thoughts on AI when it comes to content creating and editing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think those videos are performing well right now because people are excited about the idea of AI, right?
Yes.
It's hyped. It's not necessarily that content is good. It just feels fake. It feels wrong. And like, I think it's that interesting quality to it that is causing people to be interested in it, to share it, right? It's because like, look, this was made with AI. When we get to a stage where AI is so normal that we're not surprised by it anymore, it's at the end of the day, it's not good content. And so it's not going to perform, right? And so the AI thing is really interesting. I think there's like AI tools we absolutely use to increase efficiency and to increase our workflow, like the podcast enhancer. There's even some AI editing tools. Like if you have a podcast with multiple people on it, there's a one called Autopod that you can get in
That
Premiere
one's
Pro.
crazy too.
Yep.
You feed it like
Which
3 or 4 different camera angles and it will choose which one to focus on and auto cut the
yeah,
podcast. Is that accurate how it works?
yeah, exactly. It's
Crazy.
and it's kind of funny because calling it AI because there's not really any intelligence happening there. It's not that hard for a computer program to say this person is talking right now, so cut to that video, right?
True.
So like it's called AI, but I don't think it's actually AI. But very cool software nonetheless, and we use that for editing as well. So yeah, that's a great one. ChatGPT, of course, for ideation, for coming up with ideas, for researching things. For we work with a lot of clients where we go and we research their brands, and so like taking a piece of content or an idea and repurposing it and angling it into different ways of presenting that information. ChatGPT is really good for that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like I said, it's all about good content, right? It's not like we are really, in that sense, we're really heavily against AI in our agency because our whole approach is that we produce really high quality content with a human touch that's going to help you build a relationship with your audience. And that's what it comes down to. I've always said that my approach to AI is short term, focus on the tools and implementing the tools to increase efficiency. Long term is focusing on increasing human connection in everything that I do, right? Because as those tools become prevalent, as they become all over the place, what people are going to crave, what there's going to be a gap for, is human connection, right? And so ultimately, when it comes down to really building influence as a creator and building that connection with people, it's about building a relationship, right? And how do you do that, with something that's just got a wall between you and the audience?
I think that wall is going to keep getting bigger too as people rely more on AI and are using more of these AI avatars. We crave the human connection, emotion, storytelling. And those are some of the hardest things for content creators to really master. So I agree. The focus there, value, storytelling, communication, vulnerability to the camera. Those are tough things to get a hold of.
Yep.
Couldn't agree with you more. So Eric, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I learned a lot. I know the audience did too. I'm pumped to sign up for your newsletter. When is that going to be ready? Where can we opt in? And you have a book coming out. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So ericthane.com, if you want to get on my newsletter. I send out a newsletter every Friday morning that has just tips on being a creator, finding your personal brand, creating content, growing your business online, and a lot of like sometimes different takes that I have on things that I think are kind of unique and different from the way that people typically teach it. And it's because of the direction that we're going into the age of the creator. Like my goal is really to set people up to stay relevant in this new age. And things are definitely changing how they work there. So that's ericthane.com. You can find me on any social media platform at Eric Thane. I'm on pretty much all of them. And then, yes, I do have a book coming out that talks about all of this stuff, that has my entire formula for creating content, how to go viral, how to create posts, how to cross promote them, how to grow your business with it, how to build your personal brand. But it also goes deeper into some of like the personal development side of content creation, which is something that I believe a lot in. Is that one of the biggest advantages of creating content is that you will find your voice and you find out who you are, and you really get to think more deeply about what your mission is, what your purpose is, and what you care about sharing with the world. And so the book goes more in depth into that kind of stuff. That book will be out in a few months. So it's not out yet, but if you want to get on the wait list, you can go to createdon'tcapture.com. What that'll actually do is it'll actually just put you on my newsletter in the meantime, and then I'll also send you updates about the book as those start to come out. So that's where it's at.
I appreciate that, brother. And if you're listening and want to opt in or get on that wait list, click on the description and the links will be right there. Eric, was a blast getting to know you. Hopefully we'll stay connected. We'll repurpose some of this stuff and have some fun. I appreciate you coming on today.
Thanks, man. My pleasure to be on. Thank you.